or just no, we all have events. It's different. In January.
We're here at UCL to this debate on is it rational to believe in Allah, and we've got speakers Hamza and Peter. Hamza representing the Muslim side and Peter representing the atheist point of view. And tonight they debated on whether they thought it was rational or irrational to believe in a God and a creator. And
okay, so what was the argument? How was the argument? You attended the whole debate.
So the arguments presented was Hamza proposed that if you look back in the existence of the universe, there must have been a creation point where time began and existed. So if there was a creation point, there must have been something that created a creator. Whereas Peter's point of view was the universe is eternal, and if there was a creation point, we don't know that there was, and by adding the ambiguity of a creator, it overcomplicates the philosophical side effects on whether or not if it is our rational beliefs. So by believing that something has been created, we straight away become irrational. And he pointed towards that by us Muslims, we're always being closed-minded and we're always like retranslating the book to suit our needs. Whereas he on the other hand felt to see his counterpoint where
was that Peter Cave's point of view then?
That was his main point of view, but he also would retranslate the opposing views to suit his own views, so he was doing like a double negative there. Whereas Hamza...
What was the defeating argument, did you find? Which one made more sense? Which argument did you find? The God's existence or the irrational?
Well, okay, so to be honest, I'm trying to not be biased and I'm trying to be objective, but I found like Peter's point of view, like it's very credible, like he's preached a very good like humanitarian message, but it didn't cater for all of the atheist view. For example, if you look in the past, the people who didn't believe in God were very barbaric people and they would do very bad things. It's only now, with the defense of technology where we can hide behind our identity, that it's very easy to be an atheist in this world. Whereas if you were forced to go into war, it was rational to believe that you were fighting for a cause for the afterlife. But that's just me coming in from my prior beliefs. But
so what evidence did you hear of God's existence from?
Well,
Brother Hamza?
the point, the battling point was between has the universe always existed, or what has it been created? And the point where the debate stopped is the start point of the creation. Whether if you want to look into, as I said before, if you want to look into the beginning part, if it was created, then there must have been a creator. If there is a creator, that means it kind of falls into pieces the way the argument that Hamza and Islam presented. Whereas if you look at it that there wasn't a creator and just always eternal, which goes against like the theories of like the Big Bang theory and all that stuff, that means that was Peter's point of view, that just ignore it since we don't know for sure and just try to live our life the best we can be. So I think Peter presented like a really good moral, like to-do list on how we should live our lives, you know, what we should do with our lives, but it was kind of like escaping what is it actually rational to believe in a God or not? Right. But so that's not. It was very, very heated.
The evidence that maybe Hamza presented that of God's existence. What did you?
What the start point?
What was the proof from your point?
The start point being that there must have been a creator that created time and created existence. That sounded very rational, but going on to link into that, like Adam and Eve and all that stuff, that wasn't strongly supported.
Okay, so what was the evidence of God's existence? What was the evidence that was presented? What was the evidence? Does Hamza present any evidence that God exists?
The main evidence was that the universe is always growing, so there must have been a creation point.
Okay. He didn't talk about looking at the creation and identifying similarities or anything like that. That wasn't. He didn't bring any sort of scientific evidence.
Evolution was discussed, but it was through a philosophical point of view. It seemed like educative, but it wasn't rational to believe that like the stars turned into human beings, turned into creatures. Like you need to you need to be taught that point of view. It's not like something that you wake up in.
So what was the...
What was your point actually to Peter?
My point to Peter was objective morality. That's what it was.
Can you just come a little bit forward to the front of the camera? Yeah. You're running away, yeah?
It was a really good point.
My point was about objective morality.
You can just move a little bit forward. Just, all right, go on. Just carry on talking.
My point,
Yeah, go.
my point to Peter was about objective morality. And I said to him about we should stone to death. And that basically, you know, whether I accept the world or not, I can either agree to stone him or disagree with it completely. I might think it's the greatest thing, I might think it's the worst. Either way, how can I inherently rule? Are there individuals I can use with confidence or not to use this form of punishment being barbaric or divine? There isn't.
Okay.
I can either follow the tenets of the Bible and so on, or I can follow you. You seem to have a divine mind already deciding that this is immoral.
So he never presented why it was immoral.
He just said, well, it's uncompassionate.
So your argument was you can always fall back to your religious teaching to teach you that something is right or wrong, whereas his point of view is like he's thinking of what he believes is right or wrong, whereas another atheist might think that something else may be right or wrong.
Yeah, and I also came in with, I can, as a human being, if I were another atheist, could think, no, this is a great...
For example, you brought in the racism point.
Or the racism point.
Yeah, that was very strong, I believe, yeah.
I mean, there was one person, so before I go into the racism point, I'll go into this one. And I said, what about the compassion of the person that was wrong? So whether it be the man who was wrong by the wife in her adulterous affair, or the woman, or the man, you understand? I said, in the Western world, there have been cases where people have shot their spouse, killed their spouse, on the basis of their sort of infidelity. Now, were they right to do this or wrong to do this? This sort of thing breaks up families.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So what was the purpose of this?
So the purpose of this discussion, the purpose of this discussion is you and I and any other human can come up with a set of moral objectives and moral policies and say, look, this is right, this is wrong. But there is no metrics.
Is that important to identify whether God exists or not? Having this, whether that's correct, whether morally correct or not. Is that something that will prove the existence of God, or is there something else that proves the existence of God?
It wasn't about like proof of God. It was about objective morality. What I was saying was, you need something beyond yourself, something that is impartial to your whims, your desires, and your limited mindset to predetermine what is divinely correct and what is divinely wrong. Because you have no metrics to predetermine whether such a thing is right or such a thing is wrong, like whether it be stoning to death, whether it be the issue of racism. You just
only from what I understood, only the Creator who created everyone and everything around us understands us better than we understand ourselves. Therefore, He's the only person or supernatural that can determine what to do and what's correct and what's not.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to get towards. I was trying to get towards the issue of how do you predetermine whether or not, what metric can you possibly use objectively to say this is wrong and this is right?
So first you have to be convinced that there is a Creator, and then you don't need to argue then with the Creator, because then if He tells you don't drink this or don't do this or this is the punishment, you don't question it.
But then He turns around and says to me, but that restricts your mindset. And I'm saying it doesn't restrict my mindset, because I can either choose my philosophy, or I can choose David Kay's philosophy, or I can choose the philosophy of Muhammad. Either way, I'm going to use a premise.
Before you start questioning the laws and the Sharia and all that stuff, I think the first thing that people need to look for is, does God exist? The evidence that God exists, and then